Hello, good morning, Steve.
Good morning. How are you?
Now some students are arriving. Let's wait for Hans. How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I had surgery on the thumb on Tuesday, so I'm in a little bit of pain right now, but it's part of the process.
So you get some medicine.
I get some medicine, trying to avoid taking it if I can. It's
Yeah.
extra gargy.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's wait. Hans will come. Let's see if more people will join. So it is recorded. So sometimes there are more students there, sometimes less. Let's look. Julius Robens. Now there's Hans Boot there. Hans Boot. Hello. But I think Hans cannot hear us, listen to us.
I can.
Now it works. Now it works. Okay. I mean the session is recorded. We have now only 2 students, but perhaps some people will arrive later. But anyhow, I always put it into the WhatsApp group with 25 students, I think, and sometimes it is also because of the time zone in India that people cannot join. It's too late or have exams. You know how it is. We all have studied, so we
or
know
yoga or
yoga. Yeah. So how are we going to proceed? Who would like to start? Hans, you are a little bit on time pressure.
I don't care. We can also do first Steve. That's okay for me.
Yeah, Steve, would you like to start a little bit on learning mindset? I mean, we have 2 participants. They are both Germans from my course, International Business.
Okay, I'm happy to start first.
Yeah, so Julius Robens and Melanie Hochstein. So you can also talk.
Yes, sure. Hello.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
And Melanie.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. Yeah, let's wait if somebody will join or not. So one person said she cannot I think she's in India, Australia now. But perhaps Steve, But perhaps Steve, start, please. And tomorrow is the executive sessions, Steve, if you would like to listen.
We'll see how it goes, maybe.
It is the same time as today. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
Yep. So good morning, I'm Steve Terrell, and I'm happy to be here. I've been working with Jorg, wow, I guess for a year or so now, writing together and collaborating on work such as this. And just a little bit of introduction on me. I'm a consultant in leadership development. I have been doing this kind of work, leadership development type work, for about 30 years. Global leadership development work probably for about 10 years. And my doctoral research was on how global leaders develop. And that's part of what I'll present today, because out of that work came this idea of learning mindset. And I think it's a rather interesting topic. I think it's a very important topic. And we'll discover hopefully a little bit of that together when we share some of that material. So I'm going to go to sharing mode and put up a slide, and we'll have a few slides to guide us as we talk through. And let's see here. Where is my, there it is. It didn't go. There we go. I hope everyone can see the slide and slideshow now.
It's good. Yeah.
Good. So I do think this is an essential global leadership capability. And these are probably things that you all are very familiar with if you're students of global leadership. As globalization has proceeded over the past decades, there's been an increased demand for global leaders with global leadership skills. For a long time, that's not been very well understood, what that means to have global leadership competencies or skills. And I think the work that Jorg has been doing is very important in that, by specifying the wide range. I think the work will continue apace for some time to really get some agreement, although it'll constantly change at the same time. But I think companies need to understand these things better, and students of global leadership, people who work in global organizations, need to understand what's required so you can prepare yourself and grow and develop those capabilities. So my research focus has been, kind of continues to be, focused on these three areas. What experiences do global leaders describe as important to their own development as global leaders? The shape of this question is important because I didn't want to go to theoreticians or hello. I didn't want to rely on what anybody else thought or said about this, and I wanted to go directly to global leaders and ask them what was important, what helped you develop as a global leader, and then what did they report that they learned that contributed to their development, and how did they learn that? So 3 basic questions. I had in-depth interviews with global leaders from these 6 industries, recorded those, transcribed them verbatim, analyzed the transcripts to answer the research questions. And I came up with a set of findings, conclusions, and quickly review, as opposed to purely classroom or reading or whatever. Global leaders said they developed through firsthand cross-cultural and global leadership experience. So going overseas from your home country to another country and having an experience and learning from it, making the mistakes that you might make, being stretched by having a new set of challenges or opportunities, and being able to extract the learning from that, not just going through the motions, not just being there to have that checked off on your resume, but actually gaining knowledge and new skills as a result of that firsthand experience. As a part of that experience, they found out it was very important to value and understand cultural sensitivity, the relationships and networks that you create in this global economy, and the importance of curiosity or desire to learn. It's interesting to talk about this after the fact, and a lot of people kind of, when they hear me talk about this, I think they assume that that's taken for granted, or they know that. But it's one thing to know it, and it's one thing to have lived it. And when you discover this firsthand, then it becomes a part of who you are, and you are forever changed after having lived in a new culture and experienced it and adopted new ways of adapting to cultures. Some of the competencies, and I think you and I have talked about this, and perhaps Hans will talk about some of these things as well. This is a very short list. I boiled down a lot of competencies to come up with this short list of things, but this is what the global leaders that I talked to said they needed in terms of global leadership competencies: cultural awareness and sensitivity, which we just talked about; global mindset or perspective. So it's not just seeing the world in your old perspective from your old company or your old country. It's having a much broader understanding that the world is interconnected, and I need to see all those connections and operate in that kind of a matrix. Learning from experience. People who don't learn from experience are destined to repeat experience forever and never gain anything from it, never grow, never develop. So how do I learn from experience? That was a critical learning for them. Relationships, developing and maintaining relationships. I think that's probably culturally bound. Some cultures emphasize the social nature of work and of the importance of those relationships, and others don't emphasize that strongly. However, the global leaders I talked to from around the world in all these various industries discovered that was critical to their being effective and growing and developing as a global leader. Communication, obviously, traits and other attitudes there's many things underneath that, and then knowledge and skills. There's many areas of knowledge and many skills underneath that as well. One of the interesting conclusions, it is interesting to me, I don't always see this in leaders or global leaders, but global leaders are driven by curiosity, openness, and a desire to learn. And this corresponds to a number of things that are much deeper than we can go into today, as this is an introduction or an overview. But curiosity and openness can also be seen as a function of individual personality. And if you have a high degree of openness to experience, you're much more likely to be curious and have a desire to learn. And all those things predispose you to be more adaptable and capable of thriving in a global role. Finally, the final conclusion is that global leaders develop and learn intuitively. So I think organizations have, for a lot of reasons, developed a model of development of leaders that depends almost, well, not exclusively, but too heavily on classroom experience. We send you to a program, and we expect that you'll spend X number of hours and you would come out with a set of knowledge and skill that will then make you a more effective global leader. And while that can be a part of it, the leaders I talked to said that the things that was most important is that I learned from my experience firsthand, and I had made it up on the spot because the situation has changed and the challenge was a surprise, and I had to use learning approaches I never thought of, and I didn't think of it as a learning approach until they were talking to me in this interview. But yeah, I had to learn from that kind of experience, and this is what I learned. And so it was comprising their attitude or stance towards learning, which I will describe as a learning mindset, specific kinds of learning approaches they took during experiences, and learning approaches after experiences. And this is all in the context of this VUCA world, VUCA being an acronym you may or may not have heard of. Is kind of emerged from the military world, I think in the 1980s: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And this describes the world today. We certainly see that in political actions in Europe today. We see it around the world all the time. And if we're, as leaders, unable to discern and react to and manage our way through volatility, we're going to be out of the game. We have to understand uncertainty and not let it confuse us. We have to grasp complexity and not miss something important. We have to handle ambiguity so that we can see our way clear through the fog. And my contention would be that it's not always just about being the fastest. You hear a lot about the first mover advantage. Well, that's probably still true. The strongest or the smartest. But my contention is that if you're in a race, the people who are going to win are the most adaptable, the ones who learn from their experience and they evolve in those complex adaptive systems that they work and live in. So this is the basic idea. From all that preamble, this is the model of learning mindset. It has the 6 components you see here: belief in your own learning and growth potential, so self-efficacy in a sense; openness to experience. A lot of that is personality based, but not all of it. Motivated, willing, and desire to learn; curious about others; attitude of discovery and exploration; and an intention and willingness to gain something positive from experience. So this is the attitude that predisposes someone to go into experience poised to learn, anxious to learn, focused on learning. They have performance goals and objectives, but what's really driving them most of the time, they're most interested in learning. That's how they achieve through learning. And it's an interesting idea. You have to become a beginner. And the idea of being a beginner is that in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the experts, there are a few. Now, Jorg, I know you said that our students could speak. Would it be okay if I asked for a couple of reactions to this?
Yes, please. Yes, please. I'm also bringing in another student now from India right now. Okay. Yeah. Yes, please. Ask them.
Yeah. So I'd be very interested to get your interpretation. What does this mean when this Zen statement here says, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the experts, there are a few? What are your interpretations of that? Anybody speak up, please.
I could start if nobody else wants to start first.
Please.
I would say if we talk about beginners, they probably have a more open mind. They're curious about more things than maybe an expert that has been in the field before. And if you're an expert in your field, then you know what you're doing, which also means that you're probably not taking as much risk as someone who is just new and wants to try out new things. So that is my interpretation of it.
Great, thank you for that. And I'll come back to that, but before we respond to your excellent interpretation, I'd like to see if anyone else has something to add or a different take on it. Anyone?
I could add something.
Please.
First of all, I would agree with Ms. Hochstein, and I would also say that if you are a beginner in a field, you're especially looking to like gain new experiences and learn something. And I think as you get an expert, you get kind of you have made up your mind, and you're not open-minded when you're going on new topics, because you're using the skill set that you acquired over time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Thanks. That was a great addition. Thanks for those two comments. So I think you've gotten the key point here, and it is that as leaders, as human beings, we strive to gain knowledge and learn and grow and develop and become more and more and more proficient. Maybe we become more expert. And yet, if we become too expert, or we attain an attitude that we believe that we don't have anything else to learn, or that the ways that we've always done things are the best ways to do things, then we're limiting our perception, we're limiting the possibilities, and we become less able to be valuable to ourselves and to our organizations, to the people that we support or serve. So it's important as a global leader, from my point of view, to constantly remind ourselves that I need to keep this learning mindset in place, and that means to some degree I have to have a beginner's mind and watch out that my expertise doesn't become a barrier to actually perceiving and gaining and developing as a leader. Thanks for that.
Yeah, perhaps Steve, I don't know if Georgine can also comment on this sentence. She's also professor in Southern California. I don't know. Did you listen to the talk, Georgine? I'm not sure. Okay, if not, then we
yes.
Okay.
I did actually. Yeah, I really love Steve's Professor Terrell's comments on the curiosity aspect, and the fact that when we think we don't know enough, we continue to be curious. And this statement here, the Soshin Zen statement, just reminds me that the more we learn, the more we think that maybe we know enough, when in fact everything is changing all the time. And so there is always room for new learning. And that's what we have to keep in mind, continuous learning and the curiosity. And the fact that by having that attitude, I absolutely agree with the statement you mentioned that it is individuality and attitude and intuition, but by staying open is so crucial today in this VUCA environment, because things are changing so rapidly. And there is no way that we can know everything all the time. And we have to listen, and we have to consider different options. So I just agree 100%. And I think that if we can help people to see that, everyone can grow, because that's what we need to do with ourselves and also help others. Thank you so much.
I'm happy that I have you both here, because both of your theses were very striking for me in also my research. So Steve, also have a look at Georgine's thesis, excellent. And also I recommend Steve ones because you both have similar points and a lot of overlappings. So this just to say, okay, yeah, Steve, it's your stage.
Very good. So with this idea in mind, then I think my goal is that we need to help leaders build what I call a muscle for uncertainty and change, so that uncertainty can become an opportunity and a mechanism for sustained success. So it's interesting, if you had a muscle for uncertainty and change, that means that you're able to flex that muscle and you're able to grow and build and develop that muscle and make it stronger. And it becomes a situation where every new uncertainty, every change is a way to grow and develop and to become more and more successful. And that, to me, I think the learning mindset is that muscle for uncertainty and change. So to describe it a little bit more, another layer down, this is, I've kind of tried to standardize my language about how I talk about this so that I can be consistent in what I say. The learning mindset is an attitude. It predisposes you to be open to new experiences, to believe you can and will learn, and to intentionally grow and develop from your experience. That intentionality part of this is very important. I grow concerned when I see programs of development that rely too heavily on job rotation. And it becomes, unfortunately, it's a check the box activity. If I've gone through this job or I've had this assignment, that means I've gained that knowledge and I've developed that skill. And that's just not necessarily so. It has to be intentional. If you float through it and you're not mindful, you don't pay attention, you don't have goals and focus and intentionally grow and develop, you're leaving learning on the table. So your attitude about learning, especially learning from experience, will dictate whether you approach it disposed to learn, grow, and develop. And leaders who have a learning mindset see opportunities to learn in every aspect of their work life, and they tend to learn more than those people who are closed to learning. This is another way of saying what's already been said. So I love this little proverb: knowledge is only a rumor until it lives in the muscle. And so we've talked a little bit about the learning mindset model. That's a little bit of knowledge. It is right now for you, maybe some of you, it may be considered just a rumor. Let's open this up for some comments again as well, because there's some interpretation that's needed for this kind of a proverb type activity. So anybody in the call, what's your interpretation of this particular statement? Anyone can speak up, please.
If I may, I would say knowledge, which is basically the theoretical part, that we also use it as a way to say that we know different things, but in the end, we still need to wait until we really experience that and put that into actions to be able to use that. And if we talk about muscles are something that can remember different things and they repeat that.
Yes.
So that would
Yeah,
be
you made an important connection for me there. And thank you for that comment. It took a second to get someone to speak, and I appreciate you doing that. Are you, I'm sorry, I didn't know who that was that spoke. I don't see, who was that?
Mrs. Hochstein.
Oh, I'm Melody.
Okay. Does the idea of muscle building make any sense to you? And from
so the point of muscle building is that you always need to change the way you exercise, and Hans Boot also knows this. So when you're having always the same weights or the same exercises one after the other, the muscle remembers it.
Yes.
So you always need to trigger a muscle in order to gain bigger. Yes. On the other side, you also need to feed the muscle. Otherwise, you also will lose the muscle. So muscles is very dependent also on some kind of food or protein or anything. So and over exercising is also not good, because then you also have a lot of lactose in the muscles. So you can also not over exercise.
Yep. So it's critical to get the right kind of practice, the right kind of exercise that translates knowledge into memory in your muscle. So muscle memory is a key component of having the ability to be an effective global leader. So out of the muscle memory, how do you get muscle memory other than you feed it and you exercise those muscles and you do it repeatedly? So this is in another way of saying deliberate practice. So people who have the learning mindset, I'm just distilled from the research and from the literature on leadership and global leadership development, these 10 learning practices. And learning practices are things that people do to gain learning and development from experience. It's not the only 10. These are 10, but there are many more. I didn't set out to build a comprehensive model that had every possible learning practice available. But if you have an attitude of the learning mindset, chances are you're going to be learning or using some or maybe all of these learning practices, the actions that you apply as you go through various experiences to turn it into muscle. So you take responsibility for your own learning and development. You approach new assignments and opportunities with that openness to experience and positive intention to learn. You seek and you use feedback. What's interesting to me is when I go through this list with people, it's easy to not focus on the complete content of what's here. You know, seek and use feedback. One common mistake is people ask for feedback and then never do anything with it, so they don't use it. So number 4, people think they understand their strengths and areas for development, but they don't really have a complete or clear understanding. Their self-awareness is not adequate to support development. People ask questions. They may not be great questions. They may be closed. They may be biased. Or they may not pay attention to the answers. There's many things, layers of meaning in each one of these practices that if you apply it, you will become a more effective learner and an effective leader as a global leader.
Yeah, perhaps Steve, perhaps go one back on the 10 points, please. So I must say, I have read your book. You have written a book. The book you can read in 2 hours. Or yep. 3 hours, but the material inside is for years. I've seen on each point you give strategic recommendations of how to improve, how to do it. So I mean, we easily go through this slide, but you have put years inside to exercise and to practice it. And this is what I wanted to mention you, that it's not just listing up what the students now see, because they have a strategy of how to get a better listener. You have a strategy of how to have active reflection. You give exercises, and this is very practitioner oriented, and this is what I wanted to mention.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I use the book, and I use this material in a leadership development program that in the past 2 years I've conducted online because of the pandemic, and it's been very interesting, very effective as far as I can tell. And I think what it does is that it equips people with new knowledge and insights and skills that you can use forever. And it's not something that is short term; it is long term. It is focused around the idea of deliberate practice, in which you become much more self-aware, and you become much more able to reflect on your experience, both as a individual as well as socially. And that becomes part of your learning too, is that you have a network of people who you learn with and who learn from you and you from them. So this is again part of the philosophy of learning, that there's often a gap between knowing and doing. This is the rumor and the muscle, because we convince ourselves we already know things, and we're consciously doing them and at a high level of effectiveness. But it's hard to help people gain the idea that they're not doing what they think they're doing, because we have flawed self-perception, or we have low self-awareness. And this is true of all of us. You know, I can talk about this. I can tell you that you need to become more self-aware, and I'm convinced that that's true, because I need to become more self-aware, and I think I am, but I know that I'll learn later today that I was missing something altogether. And this requires a lifelong dedication and focus and deliberate practice over the course of years and years. It's very tied into mindfulness and self-awareness. So if you know things about that, then you know quite a lot about it. So the experience is not passively enduring the passage of time, allowing things to happen. It's not going through a series of assignments or jobs to gain experience. It is actively engaging with people and challenges and investing energy in deepening your understanding of yourself and actively creating meaning and growth. And this is what makes it exciting to me, is that we can have someone who is maybe feeling stalled or stuck in their career, or they don't know exactly how to grow and develop because they're unfamiliar with the processes. This is the key. It is engaging and learning from experience. It's about, before the work, setting development goals. During the work, utilizing self-observation and paying attention to yourself and to others and getting feedback from others. And after the work, doing self-evaluation and then resetting development goals. And these are very simple words and simple concepts, but this is a very complex and challenging and difficult activity to effectively and successfully do. It becomes a way of operating and working and living. That's it.
Yeah, I have one question, perhaps, when you go one slide back. So from your own life, or from your own experience, so one more, the one with the 10 parts. Let me go at this on page 17. You also have it. Yeah, one less. This 18. Yeah, this one here. From your own experience, and you also have trained and coached a lot of people, what was the most difficult in this 10 parts for you personally? And perhaps you can give some experiences, how much effort it was, and then perhaps we can leave also some questions for the students today. But perhaps this is my question for you. What would you say what is the most difficult, or was the most difficult for you to develop in this 10 kinds of strategies?
They're also difficult for me, Jorg. I don't know if I could choose one, but for the sake of trying, I do think that active reflection and mindfulness is a challenge, and particularly the mindful one in there, because mindfulness to me requires a degree of self-observation. That means I have to step outside of myself and be able to look at myself and my actions and my capabilities from a third-party point of view, as if I was I had an out-of-body experience and I floated above myself and I watched myself in action, so I could see dispassionately and objectively what is it I was doing at that moment in time. It's very difficult to do, and if you're able to gain a little bit of insight into yourself and you're able to reflect on your actions and see clearly, get rid of your biases, see who you are and what you're doing and the impact that you have on the world around you. That opens you up to be able to actively experiment, to listen more effectively, to ask better questions. So I think there's a core there that active reflection and mindfulness is extremely difficult. Every time I think that I've made some progress, something happens that reminds me that I'm still on the path. So.
Okay, thank you very much for these insights. Yeah, so now is the room for the students. Ms. Hochstein, do you have a concrete question?
Not so far, not at the moment.
Okay, yeah, perhaps some of the other, Julius, Robins, or we have also some Satyam from India. Do you have a question to Dr. Terrell, to Steve?
I would like to ask a question.
Okay, please, Mr. Robbins.
I mean, I think I know the answer, but I ask it anyways. So, do you think, as you mentioned, a global mindset needs to be practice in direct influence with other cultures, or do you think you can partly learn or build your global mindset out of books?
Well, I think the way you phrased the question tells me what you probably think. And I know what I think about that. I think that you can gain ideas and concepts, but that's the rumor part, right? Knowledge is a rumor until it lives in the muscle. So you have to combine those two and to become one living thing in order for you to become effective. So, I think you can, not to take a shot at professors, but any of us who have been teachers, if you've been a teacher, but you have never lived it and you've never done it, it's hard to have the voice of authenticity when you're talking to your students and be able to be convincing and persuasive because you haven't. And it's the same for everyone. You have to live it. And so I think that there are things that you can do, you can gain, you can know about, talk about. But, you can give a lecture on being in love, but being in love is a different thing.
That's what I thought, but thank you for your explanation.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, we have also, I think, Nico inside and Satyam. Do you have a question? Okay. What about Georgine? You have one question to Steve again?
Yes. The experiences, I think, are crucial. And just adding on to the previous question and answer sections about learning from books, I think we can put that in story format and make it alive, but it's completely different when someone is confronted with culture shock. So to experience that, you have to go somewhere out of your comfort zone. And then that's when you do the self-check in terms of what does it mean to you and how can you react or understand that situation. So I think experience is crucial. And the fact that because sometimes these experiences can be uncomfortable because we are out of our own bubble or boxes, it forces us to think differently. And that's one of the key aspects of global mindset, how you develop a skill for global mindset. And traveling experience is good, but also just communicating with different types of team members and paying attention to their behavior and their way of thinking. And that intentional way of engaging in conversation so that you want to understand where are they coming from, what is their background, what is important for them. So I think related to the muscle development, one aspect of the muscles, I really like what Dr. Shubi mentioned about the physical conditions of the muscle. But it's so important to maintain flexibility because if you overdo your exercises in one area, that can actually create problems in your muscles. So yeah, and so the same way, experiencing and looking for those opportunities when you are not always doing the habitual things, because then it becomes monotone, and that's when you think like you know everything. And just doing those kinds of things that keep you fresh and open, I think it's so important. Yeah.
Great comments. Yeah, I want to go back to the muscle for a minute. That reminded me, your comment there, to the last couple of programs that I've done around this content has been like 6 or 8 months long with virtual teams. And I've started positioning the course, the together time that we're all meeting on Microsoft Teams. This is like our 6-month gym membership. We sign up for the gym membership and we go to the sessions, and I'm the trainer, and all my students on Teams are my trainees, and we learn new concepts and we practice these skills in sessions in the big group. We do breakout sessions and they practice these things. So we do this for 6 months. And at the end, the gym membership comes to a close. And so what happens when a lot of people finish their gym membership?
They're not exercising more.
They stop. That's it. They're done. They say, well, I did that. Check. And anything they gained, maybe they got a certain level of proficiency, and maybe it'll take hold for a little while, but it's going to decline inevitably. And that's why that deliberate practice, that commitment to a lifelong pursuit, is the key. And I give people mechanisms and tools and scaffolds that they can put in place within their organization to keep it going. It's hard. It is very hard. But if you have that mindset and you are committed with your colleagues, you can actually keep it going and have the muscles not atrophy. We're trying to avoid atrophy in the muscles.
Yeah. Okay, Steve. Yeah, I would like to say thank you for this great presentation. And now perhaps we can, because of also the time limit, but we can also go now to Hans Boot. I think also a learning mindset in different companies, now also in a consultancy, but he can introduce himself. So also an international global career in procurement. I mean, when you are a consultant, you also need to learn and to have new approaches for your clients. No? So otherwise, you must also be state of the art or even sometimes ahead. Yeah, but please, then Hans, perhaps you can just start your session.
Yeah, hi to everyone. Well, first of all, I have to say that I'm very happy that Charles Darwin is still right. Because survival of the fittest is not survival of the strongest, but survival of the ones who are adaptable to new things. What I want to do now is coming from the point learning from experience. So what I want to do now is to tell a little bit about how I learned to build up a global mindset without knowing that it's called global mindset. Because for me, it was just intercultural soft skills or something like that. Yeah, so I'll just open my little presentation.
So German, Dutch, native.
Yeah, I'll come to that.
Okay.
So you're able to see that?
Yes.
So what I want to say something, I was tell something about me, but first, just the subject today is just the global mindset within procurement. Just a short thing to me as a person. I started where I studied business economies, and then I went to GE doing Six Sigma. In the 90s, it was like a big hype, Six Sigma. I think it's still a good thing to do. But at that moment, like the 90s, everyone wanted to be a black belt, a master black belt, or whatever. I then went to Siemens and had some first job in procurement. I then went to Terrell Consulting as a consultant, but I was focusing on production, on assembly processes, and living like a 17-hour workday with no private time, just in the weekends. And I have to say, Jörg and I, we know each other for I think 30 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I think we were already friends when we were like 16, 17, 18, something like that. I then went to become a supply chain manager. So I then had the chance to go to either assembly or to sales or whatever. And I then chose procurement or supply chain management because I thought at that time that's the department where I can change a lot, where I have a big impact on costs or on the EBIT of a company. And I still am in procurement now, so I guess it was the right decision. I then went to Kverneland. They're doing or making agricultural machines. They belong to the Kubota Group, one of the biggest tractor companies. I became the vice president of group procurement. So I had my procurement managers all over the world. I will come to that later. I then went to Altenlo Brick & Co. No one knows that company, but perhaps Spax, the screws that is part of Altenlo. They all also make tire screws for like Audi, Volkswagen, Daimler, whatever. Became the chief procurement officer. So again, had a global role or responsibility within procurement. And then I took the decision to again go into a consultancy, but this time as a partner. And now I'm partner at Durchdenken Vorne Consult, a German. You see that the name, a German consultancy, just focusing on supply chain management, procurement, logistics. Myself, I'm Dutch, so I was born in the Netherlands. I then moved with my brother and my parents to Germany when I was 12. I studied in Dublin, lived there for like 6-7 months. I also studied in Hawaii, in Honolulu, and lived there for 6 months in Waikiki, near the beach, which is not a very beautiful beach, but very famous. I worked most of the time in either Netherlands or Germany, but I had a lot of employees from other countries. So I spent a lot of time in Austria, in Italy, in France, Denmark, Norway, China, Japan, USA, India. So I saw a lot of. I think I saw more countries on a business in my business life than in my private life. But I hope I will change it, and I will see some of those countries also in my private life, first with my family. But the last like 16, 70 years, I spent a lot of time in other countries. So I had to build up a global mindset. I had to know how to deal with people from Italy or Norway or China or Japan, because they're all different, and you can't treat them in the same way. Well, you can, but it will not be a very positive experience. So just Durchdenken Vorne, founded 11 years ago, 12 years ago, and as I said, we are focusing on procurement, supply chain management, and logistics. What Jörg and I did in 2020, I think it's already 2 years ago. Yeah. We did a survey or a study on global mindset within procurement, because you have you have some studies or surveys on global mindset, but normally it's just global mindset in the whole area or in companies or whatever, but not in global procurement. Although procurement is one of the departments where you have like a big or many people from other countries, because most of the companies, even if they are just a little company in Germany, they have a lot of suppliers somewhere in Eastern Europe or in Asia, whatever. So normally they have to deal with people from other countries. And that's what I found very interesting. And that's why we said, okay, now we do a study on global mindset in global procurement. And what we found out, that if you look on my level, like the CPO, executive vice president, the top 5 was building trust. This I think is also one of my favorite competencies, because I think if you build trust, and that is something you need in every country you go, building trust is very, very important. Then the thing that you need some critical thinking skills and strategic thinking skills. You need integrity, of course. You need to tolerate or have tolerance against others. It's not only about diversity, which is good, but also just to respect other people. And you need, especially if you are like a head of a department and you have some employees, you need to empower them. Not just giving them tasks and say, okay, do this, do that, but you need to empower them so that they are able to do tasks and that they are motivated to do those tasks. So this is something we found out just on a global high level. And if you look then a little bit in the deep, it's about behavioral competencies, cognitive, cultural, but also about global leadership skills. And that's something I want to talk to, because the last 12 years or 15 years, this was something I needed for my job, and I also needed to learn. And we heard from Steve something about like curiosity. And I think you need curiosity to step out of your comfort zone, which is also important to learn. If you just do the same like for 20 years, you will just be you will not learn as much as if you step out of your comfort zone and just try new things. That's what I'm doing now as a consultant too. I always try to do like new things, even if it's not it's not always like a positive for me, but well, at the end it's positive because I learned something. But of course, you also make mistakes then. But that's I think important to also make mistakes to improve your own skills.
So what, Hans? Because of the question of Julius Robens, I mean, this was more or less a question where you already know the answer a little bit also from our class. But which of them were very relevant for you in specific positions? Perhaps in one of the last positions, is there something like even on different levels you need difference of them, or?
Yeah. That's what we also found out in the studies, but I knew it. Well, I thought that I knew it before, that you need different skills on different levels. If you like a buyer, that's something like the first step in within procurement. You don't need global leadership skills. But if you at the higher you come, and if you become then a vice president or head of procurement or a CPO, you need other skills. Then you need to empower others. Then you need something like building trust. So
for some of them, you could not learn the parts out of books.
No. Well, when I started like 15 years ago, I guess there were some books. I just saw Steve's book, so I will now look if I get it somewhere to read it. I think how global leaders develop. Of course I read a lot of leadership books. Well, like easy to read, like Who Moved My Cheese or something like that. Which are very, or gung ho, which I really like, because they are like motivating books. But I didn't. Well, perhaps I read some books about global mindset, but I think the word global mindset was not used at that time. I don't know how long the word global mindset is there, but at that time I read, of course, books, but as Steve said, you can read books, and then these are rumors. You know that there is something, and you learn it, but you have to use them for your muscles. So then you have to go to other countries. You have to see, okay, if that what I read or learned, is it true? You also have to learn which skills are perhaps not only needed in the job, but also which of those skills fit to yourself.
Okay, yeah, let's move on with the slides on how to build up global procurement muscle.
Yeah, well, I like that idea of building up a muscle. So
okay.
Yeah, then we so then here we see, okay, global leadership skills. So then I take a deep dive into leadership skills, and what we saw, at least on the level like a CPO, that there are some skills that you really need on that level. That's something like fostering innovation, like motivating skills. I will not go through all those, but there are not only like 2-3 skills you need. There are a lot of skills, and some of those skills you will just learn by doing your job, and other skills you just have to find out and just say, okay, and then perhaps do some business work with some countries just to learn your own skills or the skills you need. It's again always about curiosity. You need to be open for new skills, for new cultures, and to then develop your own skills. So this is just for you to see. Okay, these are the main skills you need.
But these are the skills. Can you perhaps give 1 or 2 examples where the skills are very relevant in what kind of countries?
Yeah, I will. Just in a couple of minutes, because that's okay. what I now want to do. I want to say, okay, this is what we learned from the study. So there are some skills, and you need to build trust, and you need that and that. But I now want to talk about, okay, what's my own experience? So what do I recommend if you are heading for like a career in procurement, which is a good way to do. Procurement is cool. So what are my recommendations? So what you should do at especially in global leadership skills. The first is that my own top 3 as a chief procurement officer was to build up global business teams, because you need teams, especially like at Querland or ABC, where like we have like 8, 9, 10 plants everywhere in the world. You need those teams. You will not be like a good leader if you just act like some sort of Rambo and do it all on your own. You need people in your team, and the better the people are, or the better the team is, the better you will be. Then you need to provide direction. You need to tell them, okay, where do you want to go? What is our goal? And what is our strategy? Because otherwise you will just walk to the right, and the others will just walk to the left. And they all also have to understand why we walk to the right or left. I think that's important, because otherwise they will not, if they don't understand why they have to do something, they will not do it, or they will just do it besides their work, or like 10%, and not have not really go for it. And what I had to find out, and this is one of the most difficult skills I had to learn, is to influence stakeholders. I know that when I started the first time in procurement, like 15 years ago or something, I thought political things, I don't need it. Stakeholders, I just focus on my I have one stakeholder, my boss, and I have of course my team. But then I had to learn that no, you need to know who your stakeholders are. So who are the people that can either help you to take another step in your career or help you to develop your skills, and who are the people who are like the opposite, who will just could be able to destroy your career. And you need to know them. And if you know them, then you need to see, okay, how can I influence them? How can I make the negative ones to have a better or positive view on procurement or on me as a person? And this is something that I thought would not be important, but then I had to learn, yes, it is. And since then, every time when I have like a new job, or I had a new job, the first thing I did was analyzing who are the stakeholders I need and what should I do with them. Yeah, so that was one of the, Jörg, I know that I guess your question will come, so I now answer it. That was one of the most difficult skills for me to learn. And of course, during the COVID period, so last 2 years, leading remote teams has been very important. And I think also in the future, because we will not have the same business life as in 2019. I think there will be like a good mixture of virtual leadership and like personal leadership, which is good, because it's also making you more flexible and have like you have more time to spend with your family. So that's good. And I hope that this will remain like it is like today. So as I said, you're only as good as your team is. So these are my top 3 when I was a CPO. And now I want to say my experience from some countries, just to see, okay, this is my view. Which are the top 3 skills you need in a specific country? And if you, well, I start of course with Germany, because I lived most of my life in Germany now. Although I'm still Dutch. So if there's like soccer games or world championships, it's first Netherlands and then Germany, which is not always very easy for me. So in Germany, I would say the top 3 are empowering others, influencing stakeholders. That's also the skill I learned in Germany, or I had to learn, and motivating skills. And I think this is also important for every country. You need to be honest. You need to be authentic, and you need to build up trust. I think it does not make sense to just play a role, like in a movie. You need, that's also what I do as a consultant. I'm always honest to my clients. So I would not do a project if I would say, okay, that's not something I would do just to make money, but I would then say, okay, nay, sorry, you have to find someone else, because that's not what I stand for. So being honest and build up trusts and being authentic is always very, very important. Then of course, Netherlands, even Netherlands and Germany, they are like neighbors. And I know when I spoke to people in Japan or China or America, many of them thought, well, it's Europe, they're all the same. But that's not. Even in Europe, we have big differences, and you need different skills to deal with them. Of course, it's the same, like the empowering others is also in Holland or Netherlands very important. And I think leading change and giving feedback is more important than in Germany, especially giving feedback. The Dutch people are very direct, and they will tell you directly what they think. And they don't care if you are like the big CEO or if you are, I don't know, cleaning rooms. They will treat you in the same way, and they will give their feedback as honest as they can. And that's something that the Germans are now changing the last couple of years, but still well, that's my experience in the Netherlands, they are more honest and more direct in giving feedback than the Germans. And that's something I also had to learn, even when I'm Dutch, but I of course moved when I was a kid, and after working several years in Germany, I had to learn that the Dutch people are very, very direct. Yeah, I'm also very direct on that. So giving feedback is very important in the Netherlands. Norway, I spent a lot of time in Norway. I also had a CEO or my boss in Norway. Something that is very important there is collaboration in global teams, or collaboration in a team, next to empowering others, which is also in Germany and Holland, and influencing stakeholders. My experience is that Norwegian people are very much focusing on consensus. I know I had a lot of meetings where I wanted to do something in procurement or change structures or whatever. And it was also like sitting there 5 people, and if one said no, it's okay, we can't do it. So let's meet again in 4 weeks. And then again, I had to do it. And then again, there's one saying no, okay, let's talk about it in 4 weeks. Then I had to learn, okay, again, I need to influence those stakeholders, at least the ones who say no, before I do the meeting. And then I had a Japanese boss, and the meeting with him was quite different. It was just like 15 minutes. I just said, okay, I want to do this and that. And he said, yes, we do it. Then I said, yeah, okay, should we talk to the management team then? No, I just decided. So complete different world for me. For me, it was good because I finally could implement the structures and the things I wanted to do. But Norwegian people are more on like everyone has to be happy and they need to consensus. Everyone has to say yes, which was very hard for me in the beginning. Of course, you learn to deal with it, and then it's easier. But I had no experience with Norwegian people before that. So I really had it to learn on a hard way. Italy, that's still Europe, but complete different compared to Netherlands or Germany or Norwegian. What I think is very important is the fostering innovation. They are very innovative. I also see it now when I talk to clients who also have like Italian people or Italian plants. They are very keen on digital solutions, on how can we do something easier, more modern. It's very much about motivating people and about coaching. And they like to have a boss that's also a good mentor. And if you go to Italy, or if you want to work in Italy, or you have clients in Italy or whatever, you should also show interest in their family. Italy has, for me, some of the best foods in the world. And I had a lot of dinners at the family of the purchasing manager or the purchaser or whatever, which I think in Germany and Holland, you will not see that. Or Norwegian, they will, I think most of them will not ask, can you come to us to our home? We will cook for you, something like that. But in Italy, it's just normal. You need to meet their family, their daughters, their sons, or whatever, because family is very, very important in Italy. And I liked it, but you need to really be honest and show interest, not just do it before your job, but really do it because you like to meet them. And that is something you don't see in many other countries. China also very different from the European countries. But I also see what I saw there, that also they are very keen on having feedback. They are not as open as Dutch people. They will not tell you perhaps the truth in the beginning. especially if they have like a boss sitting next to them at that time. They will either say nothing, or they will perhaps not always be very open with that. But they will if you build up trust. You will not have like a client or do some good jobs with them without having a couple of dinners. You need to go out, have some food with them, and most of the time you need to drink a lot. I had to drink a lot of baijiu. I don't know if you guys know baijiu, but it's not very tasty. But I had to drink a lot of alcohol. It was also always like, and they also asked me every time, how much can you drink, and stuff like that, which no one in other countries will normally do.
Sacrifices must be made.
Yeah. Do you know baijiu, Steve?
I do not, but I'm not, based on your comments, I'm not excited about learning either.
No, it's not like it's a typical Chinese drink, like 40% or 50. I don't know. It's like Chinese vodka or something, but it's not. Well, I don't like it. But what I like is the food in China, the same as in Italy. But it's very important if you go to China, if you work with Chinese people, you need to build up trust. And the more trust you build up, the more open they are giving you feedback, especially after a couple of baijus. And that's something what I also had to learn. I've very often been in China, either in Shanghai, of course, but also in another part. So you have like minus 40 degrees in the winter. Being the only European there, they all took pictures of me because I don't know, perhaps they have never seen European people, and they couldn't speak English. So it was just Chinese. Well, I can't speak Chinese, but my colleague could. So you first need to build up trust in China, and then if you build up trust, they will give feedback as good as they can, and they will also, if working in procurement, give you better prices. And of course, you need to be ethical. And also what I see, what at least the last couple of years, even if it's not always in the newspaper, they are very keen on sustainability. I know that many people in Germany or Holland, they say, they're all destroying the nature or something like that. But the people I met were very keen on sustainability and on how their daughters or sons will live in 20, 30 years, especially at that time where they only had one kid. It changed again, but they are very much focusing on the future of their children, so also on sustainability. But if you go to China, well, you don't have to try baijiu, but at least you need to say, either you say, yes, I drink alcohol, then you have to drink a lot, or you just say, no, I can't. I have an allergic reaction on something, on alcohol or something. But you need to have dinners with them, like in Italy, and build up trust. And then if you build up trust, they will do business with you. And when they do business with you, they will do it for the next couple of years. Then they are very, very honest to you. That's my experience in just a couple of those countries, of course, not in all countries, but I just took out some of the countries where I spend a lot of time and have a lot of experience on that. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Hans, for this insights. I mean, you could even talk 2 or 3 hours more about the topic of competences in procurement. I mean, it was just some points, but perhaps from the students. I mean, perhaps some people might be interested in the supply chain area, procurement area, in this global career. Perhaps, just leave the room now for the students. to ask you something about your great global career, also with a lot of working hours, but now also giving back what you learned as a consultant. You have seen different companies, and perhaps this is something which might be relevant. Yeah, please.
First of all, I have to say procurement is a good department to work in. It's not, I know that procurement is not sexy or something, like marketing or something like that. Like when I studied, there was no procurement in studies. But now I see a lot of supply chain management procurement within studies. I also have a mentee in my former university who's now willing or motivated to go into procurement. That's I think you can learn a lot in procurement. You have a lot of links to other countries. And you have a big impact on the EBIT of a company. So if you don't know where to go, take a look into procurement.
Yeah, okay. So please, some of the students now, Michael, he's in Slovenia, for example. Odudulapu, I think in Nigeria. Yeah, so please ask some questions, or Julius and Melanie again.
I got a question. So what are the usual steps that you gotta take when going into a new business partnership with someone? Do you usually get to know them first and then maybe fly over and then go step by step through the procurement and stuff like that, or how does it work?
Yeah. Yes. So
Okay.
I guess that's not different from sales or marketing or engineering department. Of course, in engineering, perhaps you have less connection to people in other countries, but sales is the same, of course. I think it's all about people business. Not only procurement, also in sales. And I know that digitalization is everywhere, robotics, but still I think procurement is people business, and you need to get to know the people before starting to deal with them. Not only your employees or your boss, but also your suppliers. So yes, you need to get to know them. And in today's COVID situation, normally you get to know them by web, by internet in the beginning. Some of my clients, I've never seen them in person or just by web. I will change it, of course, but you need to fly over, and even if they're somewhere in China or whatever, and get to know them as a person, and get to know what they, how they are, who they are, and also what they really want to have from you, what their requirements are. So something like, why should we do business? It's not just about you're a supplier. I have an article. I want that article. You supply it to me. That's all. It's also about, okay, why do we need that article, and how do you assemble it or produce it, and what is your role within that process, and how can I help you as a supplier to perform better, and how can you help me as a client or a customer to do a better job. That's always about learning from each other. Of course, not if I buy like a pencil somewhere from Alibaba or Amazon or something, and just buy it. But if you have like technical stuff or stuff you really need, like key articles or critical articles, I think you need to learn or get to know your suppliers and get to know the persons you talk to. I also think that if you get to see them or meet them in person, it's much easier to pick up the phone and just say, okay, hi, Mr. somewhere. And if you don't know each other, they will just send you an email, and it will just be not like a real partnership. So the better you know your suppliers, your employees, your business partners, the better the partnership and the work will be. And they will also be then open to help you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Another question.
I think Melanie will now go straight into procurement.
Who knows? I don't know what I'm going to do after I get my bachelor, so let's see.
That was the same for me. I did my diploma, and then I didn't know. First I thought I would go to the hotel or tourism industry, but after I did some internship in a hotel, I said no, that's not the way to go. And I just saw a company having like Six Sigma. I said, okay, that could be interesting. Just do it. I think that's my whole life. That when I see something I want to do, I just do it. And then I experience either it's good, then I'm happy, or it's not good. I'm still happy because I learned something, and then I can change it. And that's all about love it, change it, or leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the others? Any questions for Hans Boot?
Yes, please. I have
please.
So if you were to move to a new country now, based on your experience in getting to know the people and how they work, how family is and all that, how would you go about getting to know them very well in the shortest time possible? What are the things you watch out for to learn more about the culture in that country?
Well, if you really move to another country, then it's not easy, but the best way to start is just to talk to people. Just go to them and just ask them questions. Just show interest in those people. What I see is that many people that move to some countries, they're sitting like in their apartment and doing their job, and go perhaps to the bakery or to the supermarket, and so they have the same life than they had before, but just another country, and they are not perhaps brave enough to just talk to people, which is not easy, but that's what I did when I went to another country for business purpose, and I went to a supermarket or something. I just talked to people, and my experience is that 95% of people are just happy if you talk to them, and perhaps ask them something about which cheese should I take in Italy. When I first said, okay, I need some Parmesan cheese, I just talked to people who were just buying there. Said, okay, I'm Dutch, I'm from Germany, and I'm just looking for some good cheese. You look like an Italian. Okay, just give me a hint or a tip. And they were just very happy to talk about their cheese. And sometimes perhaps too happy because they were just talking like 20 minutes some Parmesan changes or differences. But I think you need to be open to go to people, to connect to people, and just start conversations with them. Otherwise, you will just go to another country. You will not feel comfortable.
If I could add to that, I think it's very relevant to your comment there is get out of your bubble. Too many people, when you go to a country that's not your home, you find other people from your country to hang out with, to do things with. You go to, if you're American, you go to American restaurants. So make it your intention to not do that. Become much more familiar and integrated with the people from the country within which you're working and living, and develop the relationships.
That's what I also see. They go to China and go to McDonald's.
No, this is something what people say, it is the autopilot. Now, you're going into the television, look for American movies or in English, and this is autopilot. It's just, I don't want this.
Yeah, you go to a restaurant in China, say Wiener Schnitzel. And in China, of course, you need a lot. You see Paulana, you see it everywhere, like German food. When I go to China, I eat Chinese food. When I go to Italy, I eat Italian food, because that's just the way to do. Yes, true, Steve. They are just in their bubble and still, look for other people from their countries. You see it everywhere. When they move they move to Germany or to Netherlands, they all stick together. And that's why I couldn't, because there were not many Dutch people when I moved to Germany in that city where I was. Perhaps I would have done the same in the beginning, because Dutch was my language. I had to learn German, but when I talk to Dutch people, it's easier. Same for Italian people coming to another country, or Turkish people, or Chinese people. I think many of them are really in a bubble, and you need to step out of the bubble, step out of your comfort zone. It's not easy, but you have to be like brave enough to do it. And my experience is, most of the people will not be angry or something. They will just be happy that they learn also something about your culture.
Yeah, perhaps we have one more question, and then we can also close the session for today. So 4 or 5 minutes we still have. Is there any other question concerning for a career in procurement or international work experience like Hans had in different countries, different cultures?
I would like to ask a question.
Okay.
But it's just kind of a more general question. Since you have dealt like with people from many different cultures, and everything is like transferred to the online world, do you recognize any changes on how you build relationships with people from different countries, and how you can apply your global knowledge, since things are done online most of the time today?
Was not easy to answer that question, because when I became a consultant, that was before COVID. So and before COVID, I had like experience with many countries. Now as a consultant, the most of my clients are like in Germany or Austria and Switzerland. So that's a pity, but my experience is now very much focusing on like German-speaking countries, but of course I have some talks to like suppliers in Asia and Eastern Europe. I think it's different because you are not in person, and if those people are not very open, then they will not be. They will be open if you meet them in person, but on the Wi-Fi or web or internet, they will act differently. That's what I see. But what I would always do is not pick up the phone and just call them, but do like a web meeting, that at least you see each other, and then try to meet them somewhere. But as I don't have like big experience now with like other countries, because most of them are like German speaking, I can't tell you if there's a big difference. I don't know if there's someone else here in the group that have that experience. But as I said, I became a consultant before the whole COVID situation started. From my experience, I don't see a big difference. But it's not so easy to answer the question, because I don't have that experience the last 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know about Georgine or Steve. Do you have any of this parts, virtual connection with people, building trust, different way, online, anything, or more on this US context?
I do think it's difficult to establish rapport and relationship online if you've never met someone in person, but it's not impossible. I think it has something to do with your willingness and ability to be genuine, so that people encounter you as a real human being, not as a role. And if you have a good sense of humor and you can laugh at mistakes or find out things that you have in common, I think it's definitely possible. It's not ideal, but the leadership programs I've done with my biggest client in the past couple of years, I've only met one of the people in that program, and that was out of about 60 or so people. I knew one person personally. The others I've all encountered virtually, and it went very well. So you can do it.
Yeah, and you, Elizabeth, you also are joining now or longer, but how would you answer the question from Julius Robbins?
These are all great questions, and thank you both to Steve and to Hans. Wow, I learned a lot. I would say we're in the new normal, and we have moved to virtual meetings, at least for the time being, until international travel and even domestic travel goes back to semi-normalcy. But I think it's very possible, and I think we have to remember, when we're on a Zoom call or a GoToMeetings call, we have to show that enthusiasm, just what you were saying, Steve, that enthusiasm and that emotion. I have actually been connecting with people this last year when I do webinars or they do a webinar, and there's just something about your persona that people connect with, that warmth. Talking about the trust, Hans, very important. So be yourself, and don't be afraid to turn on your screen and smile and ask these great questions. Each of you are asking amazing questions, and you will find that your presence will grow. And I am learning that, I know LinkedIn is a US based app. I'm sure there are others in the world, but LinkedIn is also international. Try out some of these things. Get to know people just by sending a quick text.
And networking is very important.
Yeah.
Okay, so due to the time, I would also like to close the session today. I mean, perhaps tomorrow, Elizabeth, and we also will meet in this executive session. At the same time, it's starting at, I think for you, it's 10 o'clock. Yeah, but thank you very much. I mean, it is recorded, so it is available for the students. And yeah, thank you, Steve. Also that you found the time. You had the surgery a couple of days ago, and Hans. And you both, yeah, I've seen it, yeah, you both are also involved in the executive program in a couple of weeks or anything. But it was also good that you meet each other, especially also Steve with Elizabeth. Also on, you did a great PhD, Steve, and also Georgine. And yeah, I think we are all in the same topic. And yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Students, you're lucky. You're lucky to have this course. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Have a nice evening. Or
Nice meeting you all. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
bye.